What up, YouTube? Welcome back to my Turbo KA series where we've been through 2 motors and a whole lot of hurt feelings. In today's video, which will probably take the course of a few days, we're going to be tearing apart my stock KA for the second time I've had this engine and replacing the head gasket. When I first got this car, that was one of the things my friend helped me out with, and that's the thing. He did most of the work. I was sitting there like a little student watching him and learning about the KAs as he did it. So this time, I think we got it. I mean, I've pretty much taken this engine in and out like a million times already. And I mean, if I keep putting it in and it keeps getting blown up, there's something I'm doing right, huh? Hopefully that doesn't happen again. But yeah, let's get to freaking work. All right, y'all. Step 1 is gonna be removing the upper rad hose from the intake manifold. Gonna make a little bit of mess, so I threw the drain pan down there. I really hope there is not too much in here. Let's go. Not too much at all. All right, second up on the agenda, I guess we'll disconnect these oil catch can lines. All right, we got those disconnected, routed down there just for now. Next is gonna probably be the fuel lines because we're gonna be taking the rail off with the upper intake manifold. So we got this line over here and this line down over there. We got the fuel lines disconnected on each side. Next is going to be the oil and coolant lines on the turbo. So first we're actually going to have to take off the blanket from the hot side of the turbo. That is these 2 springs. One there and one down there. It's kind of hard to get. Might be easier to do it on this side. Should shimmer right off. Now with that out of the way, we have a lot more room to get to the coolant and the oil lines on the turbo. So let's get those off. Now with the turbo lines off, we can take out the O2 sensor from the housing. That way we can just kind of tuck everything out of the way. For that, we just need the adjustable and let her eat. Ow. Dun, 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 dun. That's the O2 sensor, turbo lines. Aim these things up so they don't leak. Now we can take off the intake on the turbo, and we'll also take off the O2 housing. Ha 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 ha. Now we're gonna remove the wastegate dump tube, which I have loosened. Why is this thing so loose? We'll be back. Screw this thing. Got it out though. Let's go. Looks like it's been kind of doing a little toll on one of my brake lines, which is pretty exciting. So I'm going to make sure I wrap that up with more heat shrink. Maybe I'll even wrap the downpipe in this also O2 housing with heat wrap and see if that helps. All right, I got the O2 housing clamp off. I took the bolts off on the bottom. So now we can just pick this guy up. Sweet. Now we can take the spoolie boy out of there. I'm just gonna loosen the coupler that's on the bottom and take off those vacuum lines on the wastegate. And then we just have those 4 bolts. Oh, that's gonna be pretty difficult. All right, so rethinking this, just because there's 2 nuts that are gonna be really hard to get to while the engine's in the car, I'm gonna take off this bottom portion and then we'll do everything on the intake manifold. And then we'll just take the whole head out with the exhaust manifold and the turbo still on it. Pray for me, guys. So now we're just gonna get all the various grounds and the sensors that we have connected. That way nothing is stopping this thing from coming out. So we got that sensor. We're gonna have to remove the distributor. I made sure the engine's at top dead center, but we'll double check when the valve cover's off. We got this coolant sensor. These things are kind of hard to get to. This one I need a screwdriver to get off. We got a ground over here. And this ground that's also attached to the throttle cable. So, oh, we also have to take out the throttle cable. We'll take those out. All right, so now we got that undone. Throttle cable's off. We can take off the map sensor plug as well as the vacuum line connecting this to the lower portion of the intake manifold. Pull that off. We have my fuel pressure sensor. Come right out. There we go. Now we can do the coil packs. We also have to unplug all of the fuel injectors, but I might have to loosen the rail in order to get all of these plugs through. I definitely don't want to mess them up. Yeah, got some fuel on me. All right, let's get that thing out. Now there's a ground back here that are for my coil packs, and then throw this bolt back in. Now we can move to the coil packs. I already kind of cracked them loose, so we're just gonna do it right. Ah, that was the worst thing I could possibly do. Let's try that again. Take out the bolt. And the washer. And we got coil pack number 1. Now we just got to do that a few more times. Now Wiring Specialties gave the coil packs their own sub harness, so I was able to just unplug it, and now I can just put this on the side. Now that we got that out of the way, we want to get this upper part of the intake manifold separated from the lower bit and off the head. So first we have to take off this coolant passage that comes out from this upper coolant pipe thing, and then it goes down into the thermostat housing there. So we'll loosen up this bolt, slide that off, and then start taking off all these bolts. I believe it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 about. I just disconnected that last bolt and the whole thing kind of dropped down a little bit. So now we're just gonna try and shimmy this out, and hopefully the whole thing comes out in one piece. Thank the Lord, that thing came off very easily. I'm just gonna have to clean up the gasket here and over there on that coolant passage. So far so good. Now we can work on taking off the valve cover. That's the next step. I almost completely forgot about the distributor. We'll shimmy that bad boy out. I mean, we could have taken it out after we took the valve cover out, but it's fine. Let's take it out now. Now the valve cover. All right, I just took all the bolts out of the valve cover. Now we should be able to just lift this thing up, move it to the side. It's just hard for me to do it and record at the same time, so we're just gonna... There we go. No more valve cover. But next is gonna be to remove the upper portion of the timing cover, which is here. It doesn't look like it, but it's probably like 7 or 10 bolts. But yeah, do that. All right, I believe I got all the bolts out of the front timing cover, so now we should be able to just kind of pry this thing off carefully. And yeah, with a nice big hit of a mallet, we got the upper timing cover off. So now we're left with the cam sprockets and the idler sprocket. And the next step is gonna be taking off this chain tensioner. It's 2 10mm bolts. I do not wanna break it, so I'm gonna use 2 hands. Now we're gonna take off the cam gears. So it's a 24mm on this bolt, and you wanna make sure the cams stay facing outward and top dead center. So you wanna hold it with a adjustable or a wrench if you have the right size. All right, so the motor's still in TDC. We're just gonna take out the bolts. Don't forget the washers. Nice. Put these on the side. Alright, so I needed some help in another hand in order to get the idler sprocket off, because there's this chain tensioner here, so I needed someone to push down on that while I can get the sprocket out, and I just zip tied the chain over there. Now I'm taking off the camshaft brackets, and then we can take out the cams, and then off comes the head. Bada bing, bada boom. We got the cams out. Now I'm gonna attack taking off the head stud bolts. So we got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there's a certain sequence to loosen them, so I'm gonna follow that, and yeah. So it's a new day. It was getting kind of late and I was tired. But I got all the head nuts out. They're ARP head studs, so it's a stud and then a nut. And then I also took out all of the valve shims. And you wanna make sure that you keep them pretty organized. So I have them all laid out how they're supposed to go in the motor. You don't wanna mess anything up. But now we should be able to just lift the whole head out with the exhaust manifold and turbo. It's gonna be a little heavy, and then I'll lay it down on some cardboard. And yeah, now that was a lot easier said than done, but I got the head pulled off. It wasn't too heavy, but we got the head with the turbo and everything. It all came out in one piece, so that's pretty cool. We're gonna have to clean that up. And the block looks pretty good. Obviously gotta wipe everything down, but can take off this head gasket. You can obviously see the immense amounts of coolant in here. I'm not entirely sure where I was having problems. Oh, this is pretty freaking annoying, huh? There we go. Head gasket deleted. Ooh! Yeah, I can't find exactly where this failed, but it looks pretty chewed up. So it's definitely leaking somewhere. But let's go. Head gasket deleted. So now we're gonna remove the actual head studs. You just use I believe it's a size 4 Allen. Yep, and you can take them all out. And that's the head studs removed. All it's left to do is to start cleaning everything up. And then we can slap the new head gasket on and put everything back together. This is gonna be a little pain in the butt, but we'll get it done. All right, so I removed the head studs, and carefully using a brand new razor blade, I kind of got most of the gunk off from the head gasket on top of the block. And I also used some WD-40 on a microfiber. Cleaned up the piston heads in the top and the walls in 2 and 3, top of the bottom timing cover. So now everything on the block end is pretty much ready for the new head gasket. I cleaned up the rest of the mating surfaces with a razor blade, and now it is pretty much ready to go back on the block. Jesus Christ. And she's seated.
New sticker alert. Ooh. Yippee, yippee, yippee!
We got the head installed on the block.
Yay! Where?
Next up is the shimmies.
Oh, are you joking?
This is intake side, and this is the front. So we got 1 and 2. Oh, that one went in much easier. Wow, look at that. That's not supposed to go.
Maybe don't put this part on there.
Alright guys, I forget where we left off before, but I was having a problem with one of the shims, having a problem with putting the timing chain back on, but I got everything put together. As of now, the motor moved a little bit from top dead center, but the timing chain is correct. I double checked everything, the cams are in the right position, and I sealed the top upper cover. Now I just have to torque down the bolts on the front of the cover, and I guess we can start installing everything else. We got the valve cover and then the upper part of the intake manifold, and we should be cooking. So let's throw that back together now. All right, so we got the intake manifold put on, connected pretty much all of the sensors that are around there. I also changed the gasket on this coolant line. Yeah, we're getting to the end game. Let's put the valve cover on. All right, now we got the valve cover on, put on the turbo lines, coil packs, the oil catch can lines, and pretty much everything else that was left. Wastegate lines also did. Now I just have to put on the downpipe and the downpipe for the wastegate. So yeah. All right, and fast forward, I put on the O2 housing and the wastegate dump tube that I both wrapped in engine wrap. I also threw the turbo blanket back on, the intake. I had to disassemble everything and fix one of the lines on my oil cooler was leaking. So I fixed that, put the radiator back on, but this bolt broke in here, so it's gonna stay like that for now. I just wanna see if the car runs. So I already poured some oil in there. We're gonna start filling the radiator with coolant, and then we can give her a start and see what happens. Whoa. That's 1 gallon of my pre-stone coolant down the drain. Let's go on to the next. Alright, so I got about 1.5 gallons in there before it stopped going down as much, and that's just because the thermostat's closed right now. So once the car warms up to operating temp, it's going to open and it'll start sucking in the rest of the coolant and bleeding itself. So now the next step is to start the motor. Oh, I really hope this thing works. I don't know why the fans cut on. And now they're like stuck on, but we're gonna start the car and see what happens. Wait for my dash to power up. Everything's looking alright. Let's see what happens. Give her a rip.